Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday, August 8th, 2026 edition of Douglas Now Live. I'm Robert Preston Jr., live in our Douglas Now studios. This is a bit of an odd time for us to be meeting and talking, but there's a story I've been working on here for a couple of days. I got it posted a few hours ago. It's something people are talking about. I'm going to try to talk a little bit more about this. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you up front that this gets into some pretty technical stuff, and I don't completely understand it, but I'm going to hit the highlights that I hope will maybe calm some people's fears. It's not going to calm everybody's fears, because there are some situations here where some folks are gonna see some increases in expenses. But I also want to give you an example of how these numbers work out based upon my own property. All right, to kind of show you how it works. So again, I just want to talk for a few minutes about this. Ultimately, any questions that you have that we don't cover here, and there's going to be a lot, you would need to address those questions to the tax assessors. Okay, do not go to the tax commissioner. All right, the tax commissioner, this is not her wheelhouse. Okay, this is the tax assessor, not the tax commissioner. So you can get a lot of your questions answered and file the necessary appeals and things that we're going to talk about via the Q Public website. If that is not a satisfactory avenue for you, or if you're someone who can't really navigate the web very well, which I happen to be sometimes myself, so I understand, and you want to go to the courthouse annex, again, not the courthouse annex, and talk to the tax assessor. If you go to the tax commissioner's office, they're going to point you about one office down the hall to the tax assessors. But before we get to that, Coffee County Sheriff's Office, officers from the Coffee County Sheriff's Office and other law enforcement agencies in our community, in our area, are searching for a missing person. Landon J. Stevens, missing since 2:30 p.m. this afternoon. He's 16 years old. He went missing from 4077 Nichols Road on foot. That's, on the Nichols West Green Road, more to the Nichols side, but not really in either community. He was last seen wearing this particular shirt pictured with khaki shorts and a beige colored hat. If you have any question or any information regarding his whereabouts, please call the Coffee County Sheriff's Office at 912-384-4277. You can also submit tips via the Sheriff's Department's mobile app. And of course, you can also call 911. Now, somebody may be saying this seems to be a little bit soon to report a missing person. It's a little bit after 10 o'clock, so it hasn't really been 8 hours yet that Mr. Stevens has been missing. A lot of people mistakenly think that a person has to be missing or otherwise unaccounted for 24 hours until you can file a missing persons report. That is not the case at all. That is nowhere in law. It's something that has become a part of the accepted way of doing things with regard to missing persons. A lot of times it's just simply to give people time to show up, right? Because there are people who disappear, who move about, and may be gone for a few hours and come back. If somebody's been gone 30, 45 minutes, even maybe a couple of hours, it might not be completely prudent to file a missing persons report unless you suspect something may have happened, all right? But as soon as you realize a person's missing, whether it's been 24 minutes or 24 hours, you can file a missing persons report. And we have this here. In this case, we have officers from the Sheriff's Office looking for Mr. Stevens here. Been missing now less than 8 hours. This notification was put up, I don't know, about 30 minutes or so ago. So really, 7.5 hours, Mr. Stevens has been missing. And his family feels like that whatever it was that may have led to him being unaccounted for is significant enough to file a missing persons report. So you have a picture here, 16 years old, that Nichols West Green area, wearing the shirt last seen in the shirt that you see pictured here. If you have any information, contact the sheriff's office, 912-384-4227. Is it 4227? Yes, 4227. Or go through the mobile app if you have that, or you can also call 911. So again, we hope that if you have any information, please let folks know, and let's find this young man and get him back home. I tell you what I want to do. It's a little quick to take a break, but we're going to do that right now, because once we get into, and this tax assessment discussion may not take long, because I don't really know a whole lot about it. I've had it explained to me several different ways, and again, it gets to be pretty technical. And there's a lot to this that I neither know nor understand, but I want to relate to you what I took away from my discussions and kind of where this is headed. So, I don't think I'm going to say a whole lot that's going to make people feel well, but you do have a little bit of recourse. Okay. But there are some situations where there isn't a lot of recourse. And unfortunately, this is the direction that things have gone. So let's take a break, and we will come back here in just a minute and talk about a very pleasant topic, the increase in our property value assessments. We'll be back in just a minute. Looking for design, printing, or shipping solutions? Stop by PostNet in Douglas or Waycross today. From business cards to signs and all small business and personal print projects in between, we've got your back with our full-service printing capabilities. We offer custom packing and shipping options through UPS, FedEx, and the U.S. Postal Service, so you can always choose what works best for you. When someone is injured in an accident, they need three things: answers, a plan, and a legal team they can trust. That's what you get at the law office of Bruce Edwards in Douglas, along with a healthy dose of old school toughness and modern strategy to boot. We are here to help. Give us a call and let us work for you. All right, welcome back. Property tax assessments. I have a stack of papers here. Let's go to our desk cam here. A stack of papers from the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts. I don't know how many pages this is, but we've got several different pages. We've got, some Coffee County stuff in here. Oh, goodness. And then I have my own property tax assessment, a few things I want to talk about out of it. I have my computer over here to my right, where I have two different conversations with county officials on it, and yet I still don't completely understand what has gone on, but I will try to relate to you kind of what I have gleaned from this discussion. So I've had one discussion with Monty Vickers, county tax assessor, and I've also had a conversation together with Monty and Wesley Vickers, the county administrator. There was also a discussion at the county commission meeting on Monday about this particular issue, and unfortunately, I was unable to be there at that meeting, although I had spoken with Monty before the meeting, so I knew what was going to be discussed. Now, in a nutshell, where we are in Coffee County, and I will use my property as an example of this. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying I agree. I'm not saying I disagree. I'm simply going to share a few numbers with you and talk about, again, what I was told. And then you can direct any questions you might have to the tax assessor. Again, not the tax commissioner, but to the tax assessor. Now, one thing I have noticed over the last few years, and I've been in my house now, October will be 23 years, right? I bought my house 23 years ago. And most of the property around me has sold. Just about all of our neighbors have rotated in and out, all right? North, south, east, and west, and all points in between. Most folks have come in and out. We've stayed put. I have noticed that over the years, the property around us has sold for an increasingly large amount of money, all right? I know what we paid for our house. I also know that the assessment has stayed relatively the same since we bought the house, but yet property around us is selling sometimes for twice as much. I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, as I've since learned in the last week and a half or so, that's the way a lot of properties are in Douglas and Coffee County. Their assessments are low, but the valuation of the property is actually much higher. But officially, with all the stuff that gets reported to the state and what have you, our assessments are low. And we have had to reassess our property values now for several years and bring them back up to where they should be. Now, why do you have to do that? This is getting into some area that I don't completely understand and I cannot explain. But there are some penalties and repercussions that a county is subjected to if their assessments are not in line with what the state says that they should be, and ours are not. So we've had a day of reckoning coming now for several years where we were going to have to bring those values back up. Now, the county administrator told me that we were getting things in line to do that in 23 and 24. We had already done a commercial property reassessment, but we had not done a residential property reassessment. We were about to do that and had some things in place when Hurricane Helene hit. So Helene obviously did significant damage to a lot of homes, mine included. And that skewed everything and delayed everything and caused any one of a number of problems. So they put it off until we could get things squared away and restabilize after the storm. Well, that time is now. And we have reassessed our property values, and those assessments went out, I believe, on Wednesday. I think that's when it was. They went out on Wednesday. And that's a pretty important date. All right. You need to remember that, okay? It's not because there's a deadline we're going to talk about here in a minute. That deadline does not begin when you received your assessment. It's when the assessments went out. And of course, people in different parts of the county received it, on different days. So it's not when you receive it, it's when it was mailed out. Now, so people's property values went up significantly. It doesn't necessarily mean that your taxes are going to go up. Okay, and of course, that's what everybody's worried about, me included. If your property's worth more, if it's valued at more, you're going to pay more in property taxes. Now, this is for homes that you own and that you live in, okay? If you own a home and you live in that home, you can put that property in a homestead exemption. If you do, it is going to be much, much more favorable with regard to your taxes. If you do not, it's going to hurt. If your home is not in homestead exemption, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt badly, okay? Now, if it's not in homestead exemption, you do have some recourse. The deadline I was just talking about, there's a 45-day deadline to appeal this, all right? And the primary source of appeal, as I understand it, or manner of appeal, would be to put your home in homestead exemption now for this year, all right? Then you would get the tax benefit, all right? Now, you can do that in one of two ways. You can go on to the Q Public website, and once you pull that website up, as I am told, I have not tried it, it will prompt you through the process of filing that appeal, all right? Now, I do not know the likelihood of an appeal being granted. I don't know. I don't know, okay? So I don't know the success rate. But it sounded like it was pretty good, all right? Both Wesley and Monty told me that it is vitally important if you own a home, you live in that home, you do not have it in homestead exemption, you file that within these 45 days, all right? And you should get a significant tax break. Now, what about agricultural property? All right, because that value is going up as well too. So in the case of agricultural property, you get a big tax break if that property is in a conservation program. If it is not, again, it could hurt when it comes tax time. So if you have ag property that is not in a conservation program but could be, you can also appeal that and try to get that taken care of. All right, and you'll get a significant tax break there. Now, I don't know how much that tax break will be. I'm going to give you an example of homestead exemption here in a minute. Again, using my house, because my house is in homestead exemption. Now, there's another part of this. All right, and that is with regard to rental properties. Okay. They did not get specific with me when it came to rental properties, but said, rental properties are not subject to the exemptions that we're talking about here. Okay. So if you rent a home or if you own rental property, that's going to be a different matter altogether. I would imagine, I'm just guessing here, that the property values are going to go up for rental property just as they will for privately owned properties. And the landlords will have to pass that increase on to the renters. So if you are a renter, I would imagine you could expect, I would think, to see at some point your rent going up to cover these added costs. Now, there's also another part of this that will affect everyone to the good, it should, and that is that when there are significant increases with these property assessments, counties have to roll the millage rate back. All right. And that they explain to be the numbers and the formulas and all that stuff. And again, it just, y'all have seen me try to count votes on election night. I can't do that very well, much less sit here and try to figure out these assessments and percentages and all this other stuff. Okay. So I'm not going to pretend to be able to go into all that. But once everything is settled, then the county is going to have to take a look at the millage rate, and it will roll the millage rate back. All right. The number that I was told was probably around 3 mills. I do not know if that's a hard, fast number. Don't know if it could be more. Don't know if it could be less. But what we talked about a couple of days ago was a 3 mill rollback. Okay. Now, how much that will affect our taxes? A little bit above my pay grade. Okay. So even if your taxes go up because of an increase in property tax assessment or property assessment, it's going to come down a little bit because of the millage rollback. How much? Again, I do not know. Now, there's one more point that I want to talk about, because this was mentioned on our Facebook page when I posted the story, and that is related to Senate Bill 33, the Home Act, which Governor Kemp signed, that puts a cap on property tax assessment increase. It's around a 3% limit, and he did so to protect primary residence homesteads from sharp spikes in property valuations. Okay, I tried to get a little clarification on this before we came on tonight, and again, it's one of those things. Really, I got a couple of answers, but I really didn't get anything that did much to expand my understanding, except if your home, if your values go up significantly, if your home is not in property, is not in homestead exemption, then this doesn't count. All right, this 3% cap doesn't apply to you. Okay, so the underlying message here is, if your home is not in homestead exemption, you need, over the next 45 days, to get that done, to appeal that and see if you can get it in homestead exemption. All right. Now, that 3% cap also does not, I don't know if this is the right word, but it doesn't count if you make improvements to your house. For example, if you add a swimming pool or add a room or do something that increases the overall value of your house, then that 3% cap doesn't really apply. I think there will be some something factored in with regard to that if it's in homestead exemption, but you can expect a little more of an increase than 3% if you've made a significant improvement to your home. All right. So again, that's something you would have to discuss with the tax assessor's office. All right. Now, I'm also guessing, this is something I really didn't get a lot of clarification on, that 3% might apply once the assessed values are in line with what the state auditors say it should be, right? Now, I'm guessing on that and could be wrong, okay? And the reason I'm making that guess, it's somewhat educated, because my house, my assessment went up more than 3%, all right? My assessment went up more than 3%, and I'm in homestead exemption, right? Again, I'm thinking that some of this is related to those values being in line with what the state says. Now, how does this work out? How does this work out? I have a couple of numbers I will share with you, and I will do so when we come back from a break. We'll be right back. Looking for design, printing, or shipping solutions? Stop by PostNet in Douglas or Waycross today. From business cards to signs and all small business and personal print projects in between, we've got your back with our full-service printing capabilities. We offer custom packing and shipping options through UPS, FedEx, and the U.S. Postal Service, so you can always choose what works best for you. A car accident can have serious consequences far beyond the initial crash. Your life and the lives of your loved ones can be turned upside down. Missed work, lost wages, totaled vehicles, and insurance companies that don't want to help. You need a law firm that will fight for you. You've come to the right place. Welcome back. Robert Preston Jr. here, talking about our property tax assessments. Now, again, if you have questions, and people are posting questions in the comments, when I first posted the story, it didn't really do a whole lot, but it somewhat started to take off a little bit about an hour ago. And there are a lot of people asking questions and things. And I don't, again, I would say the best thing to do, we're at around 41 comments now, is to direct your questions to the tax assessors. And before you get terribly upset, and I know it's easy to do, is to get mad, but before you get terribly upset, get the answers to your questions first, because it may not be what you think. Now, let me give you, and this stuff is public. I think you can look this stuff up, so I'm not really giving away any classified information here. But here's some numbers from my house. I want to show you how this is working out. Now, this is my own example. Yours could be more if you own a bigger house, if you own more property. Again, we're not getting into the agricultural stuff. I don't have any I don't have any property in Coffee County. All right. So, again, my holdings here are limited to my little 2,000 square foot house on about an acre lot, out in the west part of the county. So my previous assessment, 2025, was around $121,000 for my house. I think I paid $122 for it when we bought it in 2003. So we were assessed at around 121, and that's what it's been. This year, the new assessment, it's gone up to 228. All right. So it didn't quite double, but it came pretty close. It went up a little over $100,000. All right. So from 121 to 128. Now, what does that mean in terms of taxes? Once again, my home is in homestead exemption. If I did not have the homestead exemption, this would be something that, the numbers that I'm about to quote you would be greater. Okay. The taxes that we paid on our house last year on our property, $1,020.30. Okay. So a little over $1,000. My estimated, this is not a hard, fast number, but my estimated taxes for this year are $1,049.03. So right at around $30 more per year this year than it was last year, even though my house, the valuation of my property nearly doubled. Didn't quite double, but it came close. All right. So that's the importance of being in homestead exemption. Now, when the county rolls the millage rate back, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. I mean, in the next couple of months, we're going to have to get through all this other stuff. There's some other factors to take into consideration, I do believe. But when we roll the millage rate back, it is quite possible that I could end up paying less in taxes this year than I did last year, despite the higher assessment. So that's why I say don't panic. When I saw that 228, I thought, I'm not going to be able to afford any taxes. This is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. But that's the difference the homestead exemption makes. And then when you add the millage rate rollback on top, and it may not affect it very much with the millage rate, but it could quite possibly. All right. So again, if you've got this done and in homestead exemption, it can make a very tremendous difference. It might even result in a little bit of savings, or zero increases, really, for all practical purposes. So again, and I knew that people were going to start finding this stuff out here, over the weekend, when you've got questions and you can't really get those questions answered. All right. So I would imagine it's going to be a busy morning, Monday morning, at the annex. All right. Now remember, if you want to go down there, do not go to the courthouse. None of the non-court functions in the tax assessor's The tax assessor's office is a non-court function. It's not in the courthouse. Okay. It's not in the courthouse. It's in the courthouse annex, which is across Ashley Street. All right. It's back there, kind of across from the drugstore, Danny's Pizza, the backside of Danny's. That's the courthouse annex. The county commission office is there, tax commissioner, tax assessors. A lot of those offices are in that building. Okay. So don't go to the courthouse. Go to the courthouse annex. Do not go to the tax commissioner's office. This is not a tax commissioner issue. This is a tax assessor's issue. All right. So go to the tax assessor's office and talk with them there. Now, you can also get on, again, mentioned this earlier, you can get on Q Public and you can walk through the steps there on that site, and you might get your questions answered that way. Of course, you might also lead with more questions. All right. Now, that is about all I know. I am not here to speak for the county. I am not here to apologize for the county. They do not need me to speak on their behalf. I am simply relating to you what I gleaned from the two conversations that I've had over the last couple of weeks about this issue, and then looking at some hard, fast, I say hard, fast numbers. My 2026 estimated taxes, again, that could vary a little bit. But because of the homestead exemption, my taxes are not going up very much. Now, if you have ag property that you cannot put into a conservation program, that's going to hurt. If you own a house that you don't live in, it's going to hurt. It could hurt. All right. Or if you have rental property. And if you're a renter, you're probably going to see, and this would be across the board, this would not just be your particular landlord. This would be across the board that you're going to see. You could quite possibly see your rent go up. If taxes on these properties go up significantly, then the landlords are going to have no choice but to pass that on to those who rent their property. So again, but before you panic, ask some questions or go through Q Public and see. And you might be pleasantly surprised. And of course, there is a bit of a safety net. I'm not sure, how close to the ground that safety net is, but with regard to a millage rollback, because there is going to be one. There is going to be a rollback. And once they have that figured out, they'll be able to give, an estimate on what kind of a difference that's going to make on property. So we won't know the answer to that for a while. I guess if there's any good news in this, it's not your taxes aren't going to go up this year, but we'll see what happens next year. But that's a little bit of the story behind the scenes of why those assessments are going up. We've been out of line for a long time. And if you're going to ask me, why have we been out of a line? You know what? I don't know. I don't know. But I know that people don't particularly mind if we're not compliant, as long as it benefits them. And that's the way it's been going on for right now, for the last few years. But the state is starting to get a little stricter on this. And there have been several communities around us who've had some similar situations take place as well. And it doesn't go over very well. And the county commissioners know it. And listen, you're going to, call the county commissioners, talk with them. They're not happy about it either. Some of our commissioners are significant landowners themselves, and they're not exempt from this. All right. The tax assessor's not exempt from this. The county administrator's not exempt from this, and I'm certainly not exempt from it. I just happen to be poor and not own a lot of property. So, my homestead exemption is going to take care of a lot of this. But that's a little bit of the story. So again, ask some questions, and hopefully it won't be as bad as we think it's going to be. Okay. It doesn't, if your home value or property value doubled, it doesn't necessarily mean that your taxes are going to double. It might, but I don't think it necessarily means that, right? We're just going to have to wait and see. And then, worst case scenario, we'll see what that millage rate rollback does and what kind of difference it makes. But there will be a millage rate rollback. So once again, if you don't have your house in homestead, get it. You got 45 days. Same thing with ag land. If you can put it in conservation programs, do that. It will make a tremendous difference. If you're unable to do that, you own houses that you don't live in, hold on, and let's hope. Let's hope for some significant relief from the coming millage rollback. So that's all I know. That's all I know. Let's take a look at our tower cam. It's dark outside. You can see our 4 lights. I just like showing the tower cam because it's up there even when we can't see things. I was out of town this afternoon. Most of the day we went to Statesboro, moved my younger son Zine into his new place at Georgia Southern on Monday. But of course we did not get everything over there. We had a few things we needed to take back, and Heather has not seen Zine's new home, and she wanted to check out where he was living and get a picture of everything. So we went over there this afternoon. On the way back in, we could tell that it rained a little bit. It didn't rain much over there. We didn't have any problems in Statesboro, but I know we got some rain in some parts of our county. But it looks like a pretty clear night. But there's rain in the forecast for the next few days. So again, everybody stay dry, and I hope everyone has had a wonderful weekend so far. One more day on the weekend, and then we will start the second week of school and the first full week, because again, the kids did not go back until Tuesday. So it is Saturday night. I will leave you with this. I do not know what your religious affiliation is. I do not know what your denominational affiliation is. I don't know how likely you are to go to church tomorrow morning. But since we're here on Saturday night, get up and go to church in the morning. Find you a good, whatever church you would like to go to. A good Bible-believing, evangelical church. Go in the morning and check it out. And if you haven't been in a while, go back. I promise the walls won't quake and the roof will not fall in. So go and spend a few minutes in the house of the Lord in the morning. Have a wonderful night. We will see you next time.